Hey gang, time for another comic book unboxing video. As always, I have been given a short box of comic books to grade up for sale on eBay, but before I can do that, I need to get the books out of the box and see what I've got to work with. So I am glad you are here to help. If you like comic books, stick around. We're going to have some fun. Hey there, Bubby. Welcome to Shanghala. My name is Duke, and this is another comic book unboxing video. What does that mean? What is an unboxing? Well, I have found that it is a particular subgenre of YouTube comic book porn. There are a lot of people, and it seems especially older people like me in their 40s and 50s. I don't know why, but I have been getting lately, enough subscribers that I'm getting some YouTube analytics, and I am finding that the average viewer of this channel is a guy somewhere in his 40s or 50s, so basically me. But anyway, let us do that. Let me grab the first stack out of this box, and we will go right to it. So this first one is a great book. This was maybe, like, for a lot of years, like a $5 book or so. This lately, though, and this one looks fairly high grade, just eyeballing it in the bag. And the bag's always deceptive. Never grade a book in the bag. Always take it out. But this is now like a $30, $40, $50 book, depending on the grade. And like I said, just eyeballing it in the bag, it looks like it's maybe an 8 at least. It's got a price tag on it that says 35 cents. I dear God hope it hasn't been in this bag that long. It is from, look at this, Now and Then Books in Kitchener, Ontario. Now, Ontario is Western Canada, right? And I know I have a couple of Canadian viewers who will get mad at me because I don't know the geography. I know the Maritimes. Newfoundland is on my side of Canada, and I know Vancouver, where I have one viewer who's becoming a good friend, is on the western side. I have no idea. I guess Ontario's maybe in the middle. I don't know, but I wonder. Look that up if you have a mind. Now and Then Books in Kitchener, Ontario. Are they still a thing? Is that shop still around? And I wonder if it was actually primarily a comic book store or if it was just a used bookstore that had comics. Anyway, that's a good book. That's probably a $40, $50 book. And, if you get these in high grade, 9.2, 9.6, 9.8, that's worth sending to CGC. So the owner must have thought that this was no better than an 8.5 or 9. Otherwise, that might have gone to CGC. All right, moving on. We have, now this is, I don't want to call it a rarity, and it's in pretty low grade, but this is the actual newsstand copy of Star Wars #1. And the thing about Star Wars is it was sold pretty heavily in 3-packs from Whitman. Whitman was a division of Western Publishing. They put out the Gold Key comics, and they would sell books in 3-packs in department stores. And generally they had a Whitman logo on them, but the Mar-Vells didn't. They just looked like a regular book. But there would be certain key indicators, such as no UPC symbol, or this price box might be a little different. And the Star Wars books has about 3 or 4 or 5 different variations of the Whitman, some of which are worth nothing, some of which are worth, like in high grade, $60. This book, the actual newsstand copy, and there was no really direct sales copies at this point, or if they were, you can't differentiate them from the newsstand copy. But the newsstand copy, it's like a $200, $250 book in near mint. This one's obviously not that nice. This is like maybe a 2.0. But anyway, and here's another one, a much nicer copy of the newsstand version, the regular book. Oh, and there's also, I should mention, there is a reprint version of the Whitmans. So among the many versions, there's also a second printing, which does actually say reprint right up here. So anyway, there's 2 newsstand versions, and usually what I see is the Whitman version. It's been a good long while since I've seen a newsstand version. Moving on, we have Batman 406, part of Frank Miller's Year 1 story. Those are popular. This is part of the Death in the Family storyline. That's Batman 426, 427, a newsstand variant. And again, well, again, I say again because I have said it before in past videos. If this is your first video, this is the first time you're hearing me say this. But for the regulars, again, newsstand books, which again, you can tell the difference here generally by it having a UPC symbol because, you know, at this time, mid to late 80s, a lot of comic book stores were basically hobby shops, meaning it was opened as a hobby by the owner. And it was probably, you know, cashing out the books using an old cigar box as a cash register, didn't have a scanner. So in order to differentiate the books so that, you know, because newsstand copies were returnable and they didn't want a shop that got both direct sales copies but also had an account with a newsstand distributor to try and return newsstand books, or no, to try and return direct sales books for newsstand credit, which is something that some shops did, some unscrupulous shops, and so that's why they started differentiating so they could tell where the book came from. But by this era, in the, what is this issue here, 1988 or so? Yeah, this is December 88. By this period, the direct sales had so overtaken the newsstand sales that these newsstand copies were about 30% of the total print run. By 1990, they'd be about 15%, and by 1995, it'd be down to about 10%. So they became not just rare, but ultra rare. So anyway, you will get a multiplier effect on key books, really on a lot of books, but especially on key books, if what you've got is the newsstand copy and it's in high grade. And the reason for that, and again, if you're a regular, you've heard me say this, and I apologize for repeating myself, but newsstand copies tended to sell to casual buyers, just regular kids, not you know, hardcore fanboy comic book collectors. And so unlike a direct sales copy sold in a comic book store, read maybe once, put right in a bag and preserved, these things that kick around a kid's bedroom get a lot of love. And so it's much harder to find a newsstand copy in high grade. So this is a version there's no difference other than the cover, and the only difference on the cover is it's got a UPC symbol, and in some cases the pricing box is a little different. But it's just sort of neat because you know that it went through a different sales stream than these books that went to comic book stores and survived a rougher gauntlet of ownership. So getting a high grade one, they're rarer and sometimes very rare, and it's just kind of cool. So they'll bring a multiplier effect. It's getting to the point where the multiplier is almost the same as having a raw book and then having that book in the same grade in CGC. You know, rather you've got like if you had a direct sales Batman 426 in 9.2 just raw, or if it was 9.2 slabbed by CGC or one of the two other grading companies. We use CGC. But you'll get on a raw book, you'll get a multiplier effect with the newsstand. It seems like that story took me a lot longer to tell than it needed to. So this might be a case where I'm going to have to divide this box into two videos. We'll see. This one's a little less popular in the back issue market. This is the Year 2 storyline. This one is popular though because it has Todd McFarlane art. So it is Todd McFarlane on Batman doing this very Spawn-like cape, but this is pre-Spawn. And here is part 4. I think it's part 1 of that series. The art is actually by Alan Davis. This one's a mystery. G.I. Joe Yearbook number 2. I say a mystery because we like our singles to bring at least $10 at auction. I'm not sure that will. The owner must know something I don't. So we'll see how that does. ROM Spaceknight. Now here's another surprise because except for the first issue, most of the ROM books have been And it's a great series, by the way, by Bill Mantlo, based on a toy that was on shelves for about, I don't know, 6 months in the late 70s. The toy didn't last that long. The comic book lasted much, much longer. But except for the first issue, these have typically been dollar books. I think the reason for this one, I'll have to check it. And look at this again. That was being sold for 35 cents at one time. Is it? Well, no, it's not a Now and Then book. But probably the reason is this must be an early appearance of Rogue. You've got Mystique. You've got the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants as it existed at that time. So that's probably a fairly early appearance of Rogue before she joined the X-Men. I'll look it up, but I bet you that's why this one is. But I wasn't aware that book had really taken off. But maybe it has. The market has gone kind of cuckoo over the last year. And I kind of caution you, there are a lot of people who are going nuts, spending a lot of money for CGC books in like 9, 8. And I'm afraid a lot of people are going to get burned. But we'll see what happens. This is V for Vendetta, number 1. That's always a fun book. Oh, cool! I do sometimes have these outbursts. So here's the Munsters. This was Mike's book. Mike wrote his name right on it. And what issue number is this? For these gold keys, you got to look it up and find out. This just says the Munsters. No issue number, so that must be number 1. Cool. Did you like the Munsters TV show? Did you watch that as a kid? Do you still watch it? It's a great show. And this probably, because the Munsters was in black and white, so this probably would have been, a rare opportunity for the kids to see how they were actually colored, to see that Lily was in fact Lily White, and that, as you might have guessed, in black and white from the TV screen, or from other photos of the Frankenstein character over the years, that he was in fact all done up in green paint. That must have been a pain in the ass for Fred Gwynn, the actor who played Herman. He must have been in that makeup chair hours a day, putting on that forehead and all that green paint. Oh my God. Oh my God. Here is a X-Men King Size Special number 1. Interesting. Captain Mar-Vell number 2. Fantastic Four number 43. All right. Next up in the box, it looks like we've got a couple of trades here. Let's see. So, The Amazing Spider-Man by Stan Lee. Is this... looks like this is reprinting some of the John Romita era stuff. What issues is this reprinting? I bet this is Death of Gwen Stacy. And I wonder what printing this is. So with books, you can tell it's copyright 1979. And this little row of numbers right here, if you can see that on the screen, where you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If this was a second printing, the 1 would be gone and you would just have 2, 3, 4. If it was a third printing, the 1 and the 2 would be gone. So I'll describe this as a first printing, or maybe more accurately first edition. But does it actually say what issues are printed in here? It doesn't. But I love how it's just by Stan Lee, and artist, letterer, inker, nobody's mentioned at all. But that does look like that's right around Death of Gwen Stacy period. Interesting. This next one, though, this is a holy grail of my childhood. So this is one of the very first big trade paperback collections of anything, of Mar-Vell, but also of anything within the industry. Origins of Mar-Vell Comics, again by Stan Lee, who wrote the foreword, and and so this is part of which sort of, well, I don't want to say sort of, gives the impression that Stan tried to take credit for everything, because in this foreword he talks about how he created all the characters, and some of those stories are apocryphal. As Stan himself had said, I've told the story so many times, for all I know it might even be true. But it's also just by the fact that it would enter the public consciousness as these characters are created by Stan Lee, just because it says by Stan Lee, with no mention really, except I'm sure he does give some passing salute to Jack Kirby and I don't know, Steve Ditko, or who else is in here. But anyway, this came out in the mid to late 70s, Fireside Books, which is a division of Simon & Schuster, I believe. And there was a hardcover version and then the trade paperback version. This one, I believe the first printing of the trade paperback was $4.95. So this is a later edition. But at this time, when back issues were harder to find, you didn't have the internet. You were pretty much relegated to hitting auctions and yard sales and things like that. Maybe, really, dealer ads in the comic books were just starting to come about at this time. So this is where, a book like this is how you would discover the origins of all of the key characters, And this is where I read, Fantastic Four #1 for the first time. And Amazing Fantasy 15 and all of those stories. And I started, actively collecting comic books. Probably started buying them around 75, and 76, 77 I am hooked. I'm an active collector. I'm only like 7, 8, 9 years old. I'm spending my weekly $2 allowance on comic books, but getting this at about the same time, I just felt like I was in on the ground floor. I even though all of these character series were a couple hundred issues in by this point, 100, 150, and it did help that back then they were written so that any issue could be somebody's first. They weren't these decompressed stories that take 10, 12, 15 issues to tell. You got a complete story in every issue, or every couple of issues at least. But yeah, this made a really nice entry point into the Marvel universe. So that's a pretty big book. That'll probably go for $50 anyway, even a second printing. Let's see here. So this is, you see these numbers here, they start in at 6. So this is the 6th printing. Copyright 74. So there you go. That's a good book, and I urge you to. You can get all of these stories from other sources now, but it's just kind of cool to get Stan's little prologue for each one, where he gives how he invented that character. Like, this one, my daughter is into numerology, so his daughter had something to do, I don't know, with the creation of that. But cool book. All right, let's start trucking here. We got to pick up some speed if we're going to get through this box in timely fashion. Looks like we got a nice run of Daredevil here. So this is early in the Frank Miller run. This is only his second issue. He started at number 158. So there's 159 by 160. I think he's writing as well as drawing. And there is Bullseye. 161, more Bullseye. And these are newsstand copies. And by the 40-cent era, they are differentiated. So you can, if you're selling this book, you could list it as newsstand edition. By the 40-cent era, they were differentiated at least by a bar through the UPC code. 162. This is actually a Steve Ditko fill-in issue. 163 with the Hulk. 164. 165. 166. And I think, just a little tangent here. I think another reason these unboxings are popular with older guys like myself, and there was a recent comment by a viewer who reminded me of this. if you are of a certain age, you remember a time when if you missed an issue, if you missed 166, not only could you not just go buy it online from some dealer or on eBay or whatever, you didn't have a zillion online resources in those analog days. You wouldn't even know what the cover looked like. You'd be looking for issue 166, because maybe that particular book didn't make it to the newsstand you frequented. Newsstand distribution could be pretty spotty, especially in outlying areas like Maine where I lived. Or, the newsstand might get just 1 or 2 copies and some little asshole got to the stand before you and bought the only one. So you'd be looking for 166 having no idea what the cover looked like. So I think there's a fair bit of nostalgia in going through books like this for older guys like myself, which is not to say this channel is just for older guys, but it's, I think, of particular interest to fans of a certain vintage. Just going through, looking at the covers and remembering those days. I had that book. I was missing that book. I remember I couldn't find that book and had no idea what it even looked like. Kingpin Must Die. At Last Monthly. So, the X-Men and Daredevil both, today we have this impression in our minds that when the new X-Men came along, with Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, that it was an instant hit. Or that when Frank Miller started out on Daredevil, it was an instant hit. Well, yeah, the sales did go up, but it took a while for it to really, hit that critical mass. Daredevil was a low seller at Mar-Vell for a long time. In fact, Frank Miller, the legend goes, he got the job only because nobody else wanted it. Because he was a newcomer into the field, and nobody wanted this book that everybody was sure was about to get canceled soon. And so, like I said earlier, he started with issue 158, and it was a bi-monthly book at that time, again, because of lower sales. And it was from 158 all the way to 171, where the sales had picked up enough that Mar-Vell was like, well, let's go back to monthly circulation on that. So yeah, it was kind of a slow burn. And the irony is it wouldn't be too much longer after this that Miller would end up just writing it. But anyway, here's 173. All newsstand copies. 174 with Electra and the Gladiator. 175. Oh, see, now this one's this one is a direct sales version. 176. And I think the rest of them are from this point on. So probably the original collector, whoever we got this collection from, probably right around here is when a comic book store opened up in his or her neighborhood. Likely his. So there you go. We've switched over to direct sales. 177. Oh, well, now I spoke too soon. 178, we're back to a newsstand copy. 179, newsstand. 180, newsstand. Pull out the next box of books here. 182. Oh, so we're missing 181, huh? We go from 180 to 182. I would say, based on this collection, I would say it was here, and the owner must have carved that one out to go to CGC. Are the rest of these upside down? Oh, sweet. Look at that. There's a Golden Age Airboy for you. I was a big fan in the early 80s. Eclipse Comics revived Airboy. And it started out as a weekly comic book series. It was only like 16 pages for 50 cents. At a time when most comic books were selling for like 75 cents a buck. No, I don't think they were quite up to a buck by then. And it might have been the mid-80s rather than the early 80s. I forget. But that revival was, of course, a revival based on the Golden Age series, Airboy Comics. Look at that. Now tell me that's not somebody predicting a little coronavirus action. Didn't that look just like the coronavirus? But it's actually a big spaceship someone's flying. Wow. I get this whole thing upside down. Oh boy, Commandos. Nice. Number 26, missing a piece of the cover here, but, the jockey from Flatbush. So do I have the whole rest of these upside down? No, this next few. Whiz Comics, number 146. So that's near the end of the run. Look at that alien. That's awesome. That's cool. And Kid Eternity. Wow, so that's a quality comic. If you don't know who Kid Eternity was, his power was to bring back the dead. Like, he could call forth... He had this sidekick called, I think, the Keeper was his name, and he was like... Well, I was going to say he was like Babu, but you might not know who Babu was. If you never saw the Genie cartoon, which was part of the Pebbles and Bam Bam show. I'm really dating myself. Leave a comment if you know who Babu was. But this whole video is basically just me going, I'm so old. I'm the oldest person who ever lived. Anyway, Kid Eternity, his sidekick was I think called the Keeper, who was this Babu-like character, this kind of goofy genie, but his power was to call forth the dead. So here he's holding William Shakespeare. So maybe in this story, he would call forth William Shakespeare, and Shakespeare would help him solve the mystery, or give him information about himself and his life, or whatever, if it figured into why this guy is dead. All right, now we're back to Daredevil. 183, newsstand copy with the Punisher. 184, no more Mr. Nice Guy. 185, where Daredevil apparently gets hit by a train. Hard to say. 186. It's kind of a nice impressionistic view of a falling down off a tall building. It's a neat way to do that. 187. This one's a little harder to find, especially a newsstand copy in a nice white cover. These tend to tan and brown. There's Black Widow, and that's a nice nice contrasting black and white cover there. 189 versus all the ninjas. Now we're into some X-Men stuff. And that is a direct sales copy. Wolverine versus Sabretooth. Round 1. Here's round 2. Nice Alan Davis cover. 201. This one is popular because it's technically the first appearance of Cable, in so much as you care who Cable is. It's a newsstand copy, and but he only appears in this as a baby, because of course he came back in time. Well, you probably know that if you've seen the Deadpool movie. Spider-Man versus Wolverine. That's a good consistent seller. Now I've got a big book here off to the side. What is this? Green Mask. It's in this Mylar folder, which is a little bigger than the width of the box, so that's why it was tucked into the side. The Green Mask. So that is a Fox, the FDC, Fox Publishing. You can see here somebody's clipped this whole corner, and you can kind of see the pages inside are kind of brown. Probably the most interesting thing about the Green Mask is he appeared on the cover of Mystery Men Comics #1. I think it's #1, that featured the debut of the Blue Beetle. But on that cover, the Green Mask had a blue mask. You can see his whole costume is blue, but just the mask is green, which must have been hell on printers, colorists. But in that debut issue, he's on the cover with a blue mask, and so a lot of people think that that's the Blue Beetle on that cover, because it does, that book does feature the first appearance of the Blue Beetle, and he would go on to wear kind of a costume, kind of like this, without the cape. But no, it's actually the Green Mask with a blue mask on that cover. And obviously I don't have that in this box, and probably never would. Not one of these boxes. All right, Let's keep trucking. Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 28 with Carnage. Rocket Raccoon, not his first appearance, but his first issue. He had a 4-issue miniseries here. Planet Terry, what do you think of that? That is part of the short-lived Star Comics line. Back in the mid-'80s, Mar-Vell tried to do a line of books for kids, trying to steal a little bit of the market from Harvey Comics that did Casper and Richie Rich and all of that. And this is very much illustrated in the Richie Rich kind of mode. So that was kind of a sci-fi thing, obviously. Royal Roy, A Prince of a Boy. Now this one was too much like Richie Rich. And as I recall, it was actually done by the artist, I forget his name, but the same artist who had done the Richie Rich comics. And so Mar-Vell got sued for this because Royal Roy, A Prince of a Boy, was much too much like Richie Rich. So Harvey was quick to send a cease and desist letter. So that gives that one a little extra panache. I don't know the name of the alligator. Do you know the name of the alligator? Do you know enough to know if that's an alligator or a crocodile? I couldn't tell you. But that's cool. Inhumanoids. Now, I think this was based on a toy line. So Mar-Vell had the Inhumans, and then for a while they also had the Inhumanoids. But I'm guessing based on this, these were toys. There's issue 1. Now we're back into regular Bronze Age superhero books. Iron Man number 19. Iron Man number 21. He quits. He's had enough. He's going to take his helmet and go home. Iron Man number 27 with Firebrand. Iron Man number 29. And again, I don't know if it's been in this bag this long or if this is like a different bag or what, but somebody was going to sell that for just $1. Can you imagine getting that for just $1? Would you be willing to pay $1 for that? Brother, I would. All day long. All day long. This one's only 75 cents. Number 30. Number 31. Number 4 with the Unicorn. See, they want a little more for this one. $3.50. Number 7. Oh, they want $5.50 for this one. Wow, that's a lot of money for a comic book. There's number 8. Number 10. Pricing on these is all over the place. This one is $2.85. This one's $3.45. Number 13, just 50 cents. This can't be the stickers that were intended for these books. I don't know. Maybe not. Well, we do have more Now and Then books. So, there's number 14, number 15, 16. I missed the Unicorn. The Unicorn was kind of a big deal there for a while. I haven't seen a Unicorn in a long, long time. I don't even know if he's still technically alive in the MCU. I mean, nobody ever dies. Not for permanent anyway. But, alright. Next box. And now that we're near the end of the box, next box, I meant to say next stack. But now that we are near the end of the box, this is neat. I should probably apologize. It's kind of hot up here in the Sanctum Sanctorum, and I have a fan going, and I don't know how much background noise that's going to create for you, but if it's truly oppressive, let me know in the comments. So this is the first appearance of Mon-El. It looks a little color faded, but Mon-El of the Legion of Superheroes first appeared in a Superboy's time, and showed up with amnesia. Didn't know who he was. He just had a letter from Jor-El in his rocket ship, Jor-El being Superboy's Kryptonian father, and so Superboy jumped to the very logical Silver Age conclusion that this must be his older brother. And so because he arrived on Earth on a Monday, he named him Mon-El. His real name is Largand, as he would eventually learn. But anyway, he came to suspect that Mon-El was not in fact his own brother, so he tried to expose him to kryptonite to prove whether or not he really was Kryptonian. And so he just took some lead balls and painted him green. And when Mon-El acted weak, he was like, ah ha ha, that's not actual kryptonite. So you shouldn't be getting weak right now. Ha ha ha. You're just pretending. But as it turns out, oh no, I'm basically going to give you the plot for this entire book. Because I love the Legion. As it turns out, Mon-El was a Daxamite who was allergic to lead. Oh no, Superboy exposed Mon-El to all that lead, and he started to die. So the only thing that Superboy could do was to send Mon-El into the Phantom Zone. And this book is actually only the second appearance of the Phantom Zone, if I recall correctly. Until such time as he could invent a cure, which, oh no, comic book pathos, choke, sob, he never did. Even as Superman, never invented a cure for Mon-El's lead poisoning, and it wouldn't be until the Legion's time, 1,000 years hence, that Mon-El would come out. This one's also a little color faded. You see Batman looks very gray here, but he's walking right through those bars like nothing because he is the Phantom Batman. That is number 110. Here's some nice John Buscema art on Avengers 66. Here is Superman Annual. No, this isn't Superman Annual. This is 80-Page Giant number 6. I'll prove it to you. Right here in the indicia. 80-Page Giant magazine, number 6. So 80-Page Giant was a series. It was a reprint series. I could go for something like this again today, except that DC would want $10 for this. They wouldn't want something reasonable. But it was a reprint series. It lasted about 15 issues, and then after that, they folded the format into the regular books. So, say Batman 187 might be an 80-page giant, all reprints. But for the first 15 issues or so, it was its own standalone series. So there's a bunch of old Superman stories for you. OMAC, One Man Army Corps, number 1. This cover just has always freaked me out. That just gives me strange dreams. But that's a nice, brilliant white cover. This is another one, or at least inside the bag it looks brilliant, but that's another one that's hard to find in super high grade because it, it tends to tan up. Here's a classic Swamp Thing cover, number 9. That's sweet. That would look good framed in your wall. Here's another one. So in case you miss out on this one when it goes up for sale, you have 2 chances. Ms. Marvel number 1. Power Girl had the boob window. Ms. Marvel had the ab window. And I always get pissed off. This is the old journalist in me, and I had this argument with more than one editor, and I never won. Even though I was right. And I have sent this to the AP Style Guide, and they don't believe me either, but rest assured, I am right. Ms. is not an abbreviation for anything. It's a totally made-up honorific. Now, I'm not going to argue with you whether or not it's right or wrong to make that up, where you used to have Mrs. and Miss, and so Ms. was something for, an adult woman, was no longer a child, shouldn't be referred to as just Miss anymore in their mind, but wasn't an adult unmarried woman there, so Ms. instead of Mrs. or Miss. But it's not an abbreviation for anything, so it shouldn't have that little period, because Mrs. has the period because it is an abbreviation for, well, Mrs. MRS is an abbreviation for Mrs. The Ms. is not an abbreviation, shouldn't have that period, and every time Marvel prints Ms. Marvel with that period, it pisses me off. I have to have my standards. Amazing Adventures featuring the Beast. Lo, a Beast is Born. And this is the first appearance of Hank McCoy in his furry form. This series in Amazing Adventures would last, I don't know, not that long, 6, 8, 9 issues. But as you can see here, initially he wasn't blue, he was gray. And much like the Hulk, and you think Marvel would have learned this lesson from the Hulk where he was gray and just looked like mud on the printed page, so they changed the color to green. The Beast tended to just kind of wash out, so they changed the gray to blue. But in the movies, that's how the Beast should look. The blue coloring, and you've heard me, again, if this isn't your first video, you've heard me complain about this before. The blue coloring is just a comic book convention. In the movies, in live action, the Beast should look gray, not bright day-glow blue. All right, Howard the Duck number 13. That is, I believe, the first full appearance of Kiss, the rock band Kiss, in comics. See, here's the tease. Kiss and Tell in the Psycho Ward. They first appeared the last panel of issue 12, and then 13 is their first full appearance. This used to be a hot book, but the band isn't as big anymore, and I think they're actually in the middle of their farewell tour. I think their last live concert is going to be this summer. It was supposed to be already, but got delayed by coronavirus. So this book has come down some in recent years, but that was a hot book for a long time. Oh, wow. Now, I don't have to open this up because I know this is the first issue because I've seen it before. And this is a cast photo from the pilot episode, you know, where they actually go on the honeymoon and take the kids with them. And it's kind of out of focus, so it is probably a still taken from the actual film. You know, that's probably not like some kind of set photo or something they did, but that's actually taken from the actual show with the background cropped out. And I think it's really funny how these Dell, and didn't they also do it with the Gold Key books later? No, because this was after the split, after the Dell Western split, where Western went off on its own and created Gold Key Comics, and then Dell continued on its own. So this is after the split, 15-cent book. So this was a Dell comic convention. But anyway, they would have to put the name of the actor here next to their photo. On every photo cover they did, they had to do that. Although Mike Lookinland, he got kind of cropped out. Either that or they just figured, you know, fuck Mike Lookinland. Which they should have done, because there are some people who say that he was actually the best actor of the six. I think they were all great. I love the Brady Bunch. It was off the air by the time I came along, only a few years after it ended. But by golly, I watched the Brady Bunch every day after school. But there it is, Brady Bunch number 1. That's just kind of neat. I wonder if any of the kids actually have this book. I bet they might. I've heard tell that there were 2 Kitty Carryall dolls that were used on the show, and Susan Olsen has one and Eve Plum has the other one, that they kept them. I don't know what else the other ones might have kept. Mike might have kept the ball. Mom always said, don't play ball in the house. Fantastic 476. All right, well, here's a gear switcher for you. And now, finally, at long last, we are the last stack in this box. Here we go. The Invaders number 34, featuring the Destroyer, which was actually a character that Stan Lee created in the Golden Age. So that's just kind of cool. Here is Invaders 35 with the Whizzer, which, you know, I guess I wasn't a very bright kid. When I was a kid, I was probably, when this came out, I was probably, what, 8 or 9? Maybe 10, I don't know. But I didn't even think twice about the name The Whizzer. And when you think about it, it's not just a guy who goes whiz, it's a guy who goes whiz. I think they had a version of the Whizzer appear in the January Jones Netflix show. I think he ended up getting killed off, but they made the joke there. And here we've got number 36. I love the Invaders title as a kid. A lot of people don't like it. because they think the Frank Robbins art is too quirky, and they think the Roy Thomas scripts are too wordy. But I really loved and adored the Invaders series as a kid. I was heartbroken when it was canceled. And this is near the end of the run. It only went to 41 issues. Here's number 37, number 38, 40, and there's 41. And there was quite a gap, actually. So there's 40, and that was the last issue. There are 2 in here? Oh, it's 39. So you had issue 40, and you can see here this is cover dated May, and then 41 didn't come along until September. And as a kid, I never got this book. I missed this one. So for me, the series ended at number 40. And then when this one came out many months later, and I can't remember if this was to wrap up the storyline or if it was one more test issue to kind of see, should we have canceled that book or not? I don't know. But anyway, I do have this one in my collection now, but I didn't have it for a lot of years. But that's it. That's that box. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had some fun there. And we'll do another box soon. And until then, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other.